All right, rumor. Now this is look, guys. I'm not cosplaying as Mike Zero here. Okay, I don't think this is legit at all. Just as an FYI, but Chris Gore has reported that Disney's been trying to sell Star Wars for 7 months. No one will buy it. So there's that. And Film Threat is trying to find new information on it all. So that Chris Gore does have good sources. And this is on Film Threat. And basically, he said, this is from a friend who's not in the nerd space, not in the YouTube space, not a media person. This is a friend in the world of finance, a trusted individual who says for 7 months, they've put feelers out about selling Star Wars. That's Disney, obviously. They've been shopping it around for 7 months and can't find a buyer. So there's that, right? That's it. That's the piece of news. There's not a lot else actually outside of that. The piece of news is that they're looking like they want to sell Star Wars. Now, I was on EBN Cast with Nick, Place Network.
Yeah, that's right.
Down below, and we covered this, and I was like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. And basically, on that show, the culmination of opinions formed that the likelihood is, and you guys can obviously chime in on this as well, of course, and I want your opinion on it all, but culminated in that because it's from a fight, like Chris Gore has good sources. It's not actually necessarily that he's been given wrong information, right? It's not wrong information. It's the right information, but he doesn't understand the motive, and he wasn't told the motive because the people don't know the motive. But they could be trying to sell it to get an appraisal for the value of it. Because who's leaving soon? Kathleen Kennedy. So, as a result of her leaving during her tenure under Disney,
and her destruction of the whole brand.
Well, yeah, obviously. But the point is that she's going to have a form of a golden parachute, which would probably be tied to some element of how the business is doing, I would imagine. And so to understand that, you've got to understand what the value is. They bought it for a certain price. She's ran it into the ground, but she's ran it for however many years under Disney. They can get an appraisal for how, what the value is, and thus either pay her less money or more money or something along those lines. So that's what I think is actually going on. I think quite possibly is right that he is, he's heard that they are shopping it around, but the motive is not to sell it. It's just to get an appraisal. Because ultimately as well, why would Disney sell Star Wars when it's at its absolute lowest point? They're not going to do that. That's so dumb. Like, why would you do that? Seriously. So that's my gauge on it. I've not spoke to Culture. I don't know what he thinks on this. So we'll get your opinion now, buddy. And yeah, you can chime in on this now, I guess. What do you reckon, mate? You muted.
Star Wars isn't worth very much. I would say the amount of money put in, it will never be recovered so far, at least not through Disney and under its current leadership structure. The Lucasfilm as a whole is valuable, but not because of any of the film things that have recently been done. It's because of Industrial Light and Magic and all the rest of that. There isn't much out there that I think anybody here has enjoyed. Regular fans have kind of walked away, for a lack of a better way to put it, and we're starting to see the return on investment fall so far that it's not even maybe worth producing or releasing. I should say they've already produced it, but releasing that Grogu film, the cap for the Mandalorian. I don't see how that is profitable. I think it's just basically the capstone for the grave or the tomb for for once we will bury Star Wars. And then at that point, I mean, everything's buried. There's nothing good about Star Wars anymore. There's nothing good about Indiana Jones anymore. There's nothing good about Willow anymore. What do you got left? Just ILM and Skywalker Sound and the things that came along, the technology side. And if that's where Disney's headed, is to being a technology company, they're certainly stripping it down to the Titan Curlies, especially when it comes to stuff. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. As far as what a sale would look like, though, it might look like something like what happened with Power Rangers. You know,
What happened with Power Rangers?
didn't they own Power Rangers for like 5 minutes?
What, Disney?
Disney did, yeah.
Yeah,
Did they?
Saban
Yeah, so
bought it back
Saban-
for less
yeah.
money.
I thought it was
Saban
always
owned it.
Saban that bought it.
No,
that owned it.
Saban,
They sold it.
Saban owned it, and then they sold it to Disney, and then Disney ran it into the ground, and then
Yeah.
Disney sold it back to Saban for less money.
Way
than
less
they
money.
paid for it, way less. And then
How much did
Saban
you buy
put
it
it.
for?
Saban had it put on Nickelodeon, and then Saban eventually sold it to Hasbro for more money than probably they bought it from for Disney.
Wow. Did not know. I did not know that. Did not know Saban did that. I thought he always they always it was he. I thought he always owned it because it is an individual, isn't it?
No, so he sold it to Disney in 2001 as part of a larger acquisition of Fox Family Worldwide, and bought it back from Disney in 2010 for just $43 million.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. But they used to have the Power Rangers in like in the theme parks and everything too.
Did they?
Yeah, in Hollywood Studios, you used to be able to meet the Power Rangers, and they would like do poses with you and stuff. It was like 4 different Rangers from like 4 different shows, but yeah.
How bizarre.
I mean, but now I wrote this article, and I don't believe that this is going to happen. And I think and Gore was very specific in the video where he discussed it. He was basically like, "Look, I don't know if this is real, but this is what a guy that I trust told me, and I'm looking for another source to confirm that they've heard this as well." Now, I think the best case, look, at the end of the day, Disney has put too much of itself into this, I think, to sell it completely. I think if they were ever to sell it, it would be for somebody else to buy the property, but Disney would maintain in perpetuity the distribution rights and the theme park rights. And probably merchandising. So you're probably just buying the IP, and then you're able to make the creative choices. I mean, could you imagine if George bought it back for like $2 billion or $1 billion?
Yeah.
There's no way it's worth the $4 billion that they paid for it in 2012.
No.
There's no way it's worth that anymore. So yeah, I could. George has the ability to do the funniest thing ever right now, and just buy it back and do what he wants to do, and then let them distribute it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you reckon, Nick, our resident Star Wars man?
Well, if you guys remember a while back ago, Disney CEO Bob Iger was considering selling some of Disney's TV assets like ABC, FX, Freeform. You know, there was rumors that he was going to a lot of these events, basically shopping it around. If you guys remember all those stories, I think it was last year, 2024, like a year, maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember the exact year, but you know, maybe potentially they're just shopping around just out of curiosity, just seeing what somebody would offer them. So me and Valiant were streaming last Wednesday night, I believe, and we kind of broke down using a Forbes article on everything that they have spent on Lucasfilm, the movies, the streaming services, marketing, the theme parks, the hotels, everything, you know, and from what they've spent on just acquiring it and everything they've put into it, you know, they're in the red almost $3 billion, roughly estimating. So they're not making money on this at all. You know, they've had it since 2012, and they're in the red for Lucasfilm. So
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
You know, it's like, at what point do you just keep losing money before you're just like, okay, we can't keep losing money on this property, on this, like, we need to just try to recoup, you know, what we can out of it. I see that as being a possibility. Do I think it'll actually happen? Probably not. But I do see that being a possibility. Maybe that's why, Chris Gore got this information. Maybe they are just shopping it around. Maybe not to sell it, but just to see what they could get for it right now, so they can maybe make plans. Maybe they're thinking about it. But when we talked about this last Friday, Culture was talking about how ingrained Lucasfilm is in Disney now, which was a good point that he was making. And it is. It's a big part of Disney Plus. It's a big part of their theme parks now, merchandise, all this stuff. So yeah, I think more than likely, I think Marvin's hit the nail on the head where he was talking about if they were to sell it, they'd probably retain merchandising, theme park, all that sort of stuff, and they would probably just sell Lucasfilm, and somebody would have creative control over those properties moving forward, as far as creative control, movies, shows, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Willow, all that stuff. My one curiosity would be, would ILM go with it?
No,
it's a big asset
ILM.
for Disney, isn't it?
I
It's a big asset.
it's the one thing they have that's making money. I don't even think it would be Lucasfilm. I think it would just be Star Wars. Just the Star Wars IP. And honestly, I think it might be the best case scenario for them, because then they get to reap the rewards of the licensing, but then at the same time, they don't have to deal with the backlash for all the creative decisions.
So wait. So just to clarify, do you actually think that they are shopping it around to sell it then, or not, Marvin? Or are you just you're using that as a speculative?
I'm just saying in a universe where that was happening, that would probably be the best case scenario for them. Something's got to give with them with Star Wars, though, because it is they are bleeding money with this property. This was supposed to be their big get. They were supposed to make back that $4 billion within 5 years, and it's been over a decade now, and I don't think they've even come close to making $4 billion off of Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't have much stock in it being legit. I think if it is, if indeed that they are, then I don't think it's because they're looking to actually sell it. It's because they want a valuation potentially tied to Kathleen Kennedy's golden parachute that she's going to have, and a way for them to minimize what they pay her.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good guess on that. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's probably the most logical thing I've heard about this situation up to now. That it had something to do with the Kennedy stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about how long we heard, she said she'd been discussing leaving. They've been doing this for like 7 months. It kind of aligns with that, with the start of her sort of conversations to get gone. So I don't know. Makes sense. We've got a super chat about this from a tipping barn, and he says, for $2, Star Wars will always be the original trilogy to me, and it ended with Return of the Jedi. Disney Star Wars is a false successor.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree. How funny it would be if Kathleen Kennedy left and her husband took Star Wars with them. They bought and acquired Star Wars.
God. Do you think that would be funny? That's like some sadistic shit.
I know. Can you imagine, like, the Star Wars fans out there that had any hope that it would get better if she was gone, and they're like, "Oh, KK's gone," but then the news came out that Star Wars is going with her. Oh,
that would not be funny at all. That'd be funny in the way that a gas leak is funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a tragedy that would be.
Like, it would be such a tragedy, it would be funny. It's like one of those things where it's like it's so bad that you just can't help but just to laugh.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, there you go, guys. Anything else to add? Or shall we move on from this one now? Nope. Cool.
No.